The WTA is in hot water again. In a controversial move that has sparked intense debate, the Women's Tennis Association has decided to host its marquee event, the WTA Finals, in Riyadh for the next 3 years. Human rights advocates have criticized the WTA for agreeing to the relocation of its premier event to such a contentious place. This decision, worth nearly $50 million, not only raises questions about sports' role in political and human rights issues, but also places players in a precarious position. Speak out and face severe consequences, or stay silent under oppressive conditions. How will the WTA and its players navigate this complex and ethically fraught landscape? Let's dive into the heart of this dilemma. This move has been further condemned by Human Rights Watch, which claims that the association is shrinking its responsibility to champion women's and LGBT rights, transferring that burden to the players instead. This situation places athletes at risk, especially in a country where dissent against human rights abuses can lead to imprisonment and worse. The relocation has been met with opposition from tennis legends like Martina Navratilova and Chrissy Everett, who have previously expressed concerns about Saudi Arabia using sports to improve its international image amidst ongoing human rights and gender equality issues. The problem with the WTA taking this money is that it transfers the responsibility to advocate for women's rights and LGBT rights onto individual players. Minky Worden, HRW's Director of Global Initiative, says. At the same time, they're expected to go to an environment where LGBT players are not allowed to exist in law, policy, and practice by the Saudi government. It's certainly an invidious situation for players who would be expected to speak up about human rights in Saudi Arabia, when the Saudi government has authorized targeted killings for people who do just that. If you complain, you go to jail. So that puts the WTA and players in a super bad spot. You complain about women's rights conditions and you end up in jail and tortured. So which women's tour player wants to be asked about the women's rights defenders who were in jail while they're playing tennis? Whatever the prize money is, it puts them in a difficult moral spot and ethical spot. In 2018, Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist from Saudi Arabia, was killed inside the Saudi's embassy in Istanbul. The CIA believes that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who has denied any role, ordered the assassination. Minky Worden adds, "It's only been since 2018 that women and girls have been allowed to drive and play sports. Yes, there has been some progress in that area, and it has been due entirely to the women's rights activists, many of whom have suffered imprisonment and torture. I think the core problems of the underlying human rights crisis in Saudi Arabia are not addressed. None of the federations, not the ATP, not the ITF, and not the WTA, have in place a human rights framework that would allow them to even do human rights due diligence. There aren't any women's rights defenders in Saudi Arabia that they can interview about the problem. They're all in jail or under house arrest." Lujain Al-Hathloul, a leading figure in the campaign for women's driving rights in Saudi Arabia, was jailed for over 1,000 days and subjected to torture. Although now released, she remains under a travel ban, and her freedoms within the country are thought to be restricted. Human Rights Watch is urging tennis players to leverage their influence to help secure freedom for women like Al-Hathloul. Players in the WTA still have the leverage to press the Saudi government to release jailed women's rights defenders, to urge permanent reforms to allow basic rights for women and girls in the country. And separately, the WTA, the ATP, and ITF all need to commit to adopting a human rights policy that would govern their operations when they go someplace that has no protection for human rights, Warden says. It would be an easy ask to say Lou Jane should be able to visit her sister and to travel, and she shouldn't be silenced. There is the determination to create an environment that is safe for players for their mental health or physical health, and to genuinely improve the conditions for human rights for women and girls in the country of Saudi Arabia. That's certainly possible, but anyone who says it's easy and will happen without work has never worked in Saudi Arabia before. The Women's Tennis Association has historically taken a stand under financial and political strain. For instance, when Peng Shuai disappeared in China following her accusations of sexual assault against a senior Communist Party official, WTA head Steve Simon was at the forefront of global demands for evidence of her well-being. However, the WTA's boycott of China ceased once travel restrictions related to COVID-19 were removed. Maybe the world would not have seen her again if the WTA hadn't insisted. I think that's a direct parallel, adds Warden. A WTA spokesperson said, "As a sports organization, our principal focus is on developing women's tennis for the benefit of everybody involved with the game. We believe it is the right thing to open up new opportunities for women to play professional tennis in different countries, and to give audiences in those countries the opportunity to watch the world's best players. The rapid development of women's sports in Saudi Arabia is clear, and we see a positive opportunity to support the growth of tennis at all levels. Alongside that, we understand that the growing investment in sports by Saudi Arabia is a subject that promotes strong views. We have engaged with a range of voices inside and outside the sport during our decision-making process, and will continue to do so over the coming months. Our focus is on making sure that players, fans, and other attendees have the best possible experience at the WTA Finals. We have received assurances in this regard from the event organizers, and we do not anticipate any issues, in line with the positive experiences of other sports that have held events in Saudi Arabia. We will always support our players' right to express themselves freely. As a global sport, with players from almost 90 nations, we go to many countries around the world that reflect different cultures and value systems, and we respect those local customs. The WTA has had a presence in the Middle East for many years, and we have never had any issues with freedom of expression. While the WTA emphasizes its commitment to growing women's tennis and supporting players' rights, the real test will be its ability to navigate and advocate within such challenging environments without compromising its values. The history of activism within the WTA, as seen during the Peng Shuai incident, shows potential for impactful advocacy, yet consistency remains key. As the WTA ventures into new territories, it carries not just the hope of expanding tennis, but also the profound responsibility of championing the rights and safety of its players and the broader community. The path forward is fraught with challenges, but with vigilant effort and unwavering commitment to human rights, progress is possible. Thank you for watching Tennis Tenacity. For more insights into the world of tennis and the ongoing developments in this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us keep these important discussions going. See you on the courts.